Hello, it's Amy, and let's do a 30-minute walk and learn where I share all about bone health and why it is so important if you're a woman over 50. This is going to be a 3x1. We're going to walk relatively slow for 3 minutes. You can walk at your own pace, catching your breath. I'll be sharing some things about bone health. And then for a minute, we're going to do a bone building move, okay? I'll share. You don't have to worry about it. I'll do everything. Make sure, safety first. You are not watching me as you're doing this walking. You are sticking your phone, your app in your pocket, one earbud in your ear. If you're on a treadmill, or elliptical, on the elliptical or a bike, you're going to have to get off to do the bone building move because it's going to be impact on the ground. If you're on a treadmill, you may want to get off there as well. You could be just marching in place in front of your computer and doing the bone building activity. I'll be describing it. I won't be showing you it. What else can I tell you? Let's get started. But first, I want to go to my computer and give you a better scene than just me. So you're not tempted to watch me. This is a pretty picture too. I love this. All right, let me get my timer started. This is a 3x1. We're just going to do a 1-minute warm up. The timer is going now. Nope, yep, there it went. Make sure that if you're walking out and back, you set your own timer for 15 minutes because I forget all the time. Anyway, let's get in touch with our body. This is a time where you feel anything that you need to adjust, shoelaces, socks, pants, shirts, hats, whatever you've got on. So you're comfortable while you're walking because we want to walk with good form. What's good form? Walking heel to toe on your flat foot, not on the inside of your foot, not on the outside of your foot. Feet going straight, not out like a duck or not in like pigeon toe. Try to walk straight. If that's hard for you, it means something is out of balance with your body. And it could lead to a problem. It could be just your nature, but it could lead to a problem because that knee, with the knee or the hip or the neck. Okay, just walk at your own pace, and we're going to keep warming up before we get to our first minute of bone building. Let's see, what was I talking about? Things need to be in balance, and when they're out of balance, they can make things start wearing more quickly than they should. Or causing some pain, which could lead to problems, all right? It could mean a muscle imbalance, that maybe one muscle is stronger than the other and it's pulling things off. That can happen a lot, especially around your pelvic area, your hip area, or low back area. But everything's connected, so make sure that you're watching and walking with good form. Then look at your upper body posture, shoulders back and down, abs pulled in, head right over your spine, not looking down. You might need to look down a little bit so you don't trip, but see if you can look out, keeping that head, that chin up, and then shoulders back. Imagine you've got a laser beam between the crook of your finger and your thumb, and that's pointing forward, not crossing. Those laser beams aren't crossed. That helps you bring your shoulders back naturally. Let's just keep walking, and I'm going to be talking about bone health. I forgot. I need to be talking about bone health. Let me give you some scary statistics. Bone loss, or what they call osteoporosis, is when you get to a certain amount of bone loss, is a major public health problem in this country, and it can be life-altering. 1 out of every 2 women and 1 out of every 4 men over the age of 50 are at risk for osteoporosis, low bone density, and will have a fracture. That's 1 out of 2 women are going to have a fracture, which is scary. Osteoporosis is often called silent until someone breaks a bone, and then that fracture can change their life. All right, healthy bones. If you can imagine this, I do have a picture on my website, but you can imagine a bone is a porous living substance. And what happens when we get low bone density, it means that the pores get bigger. It's almost like nylons versus fishnets, almost. Osteoporosis bones have just more nooks and crannies, and the structure that's holding things together is weaker, and that means that they're going to break likely. That's the only problem with osteoporosis, is the bones are more likely to break, and we don't want to have a break. Okay, we got about 30 seconds of walking. Let's see, what else can I talk about? breaking. All right, yes, because they're weak bones, and just even a very little impact. Sometimes people with severe osteoporosis, if they just clap their hands or they bump into something, can break something. Let's go 10 more seconds of walking, and we're going to do a very simple, basic bone building exercise. All right, it's very simple. You just need to stand in place. If you don't want to stand in place or get off your equipment, maybe you can do a light jog, but all you're going to do is come up on your toes, and then you're going to drop your heels down with purpose, giving yourself a little impact. They're called heel drops. You lift up and drop down. It's going to send a vibration up through your body. You go at your own pace, just up and down, trying to do about 10. That's all you need. 10 every day, 10 3 times a week. Get started, making sure you're not feeling any pain in your joints. When I tell you some scary stats about this silent disease, 70% of people don't even know they have it. Approximately 10 million Americans have osteoporosis, and 44 million have low bone density, or called osteoporosis, leaving them at risk for a fracture. Just do one more heel drop and then just walk at your nice pace. We're just warming up, we're only about 5 minutes in, so just go at a slow pace, just walking, letting that vibration of those heel drops sort of calm down. What that does is it sends this, I'll talk about this a little bit later, but you are sending the signal to your bones to wake up and start maybe building some bones. The disease is responsible for an estimated 2 million bone breaks per year. I'm trying to scare you, all right? This is that stick, not the carrot, that's going to motivate you to focus on your body and improving your bone health, okay? And it does. It sounds like I'm trying to scare you, and I truly, I guess I think I am, but I want you to take it seriously, because you're not going to feel this until you break a bone. But life isn't over. You don't have to go wrap yourself in bubble wrap, okay? I am going to get a little sciencey. I talked about what we were doing with the heel drops, and so that you understand that bone is a living tissue. It's easy to think of the bones being this thing that this dog chews on, this lifeless part of the body, but the bone is living and growing, and old bone is being removed and replaced with new bone all the time. Hopefully all the time, okay? Bone remodeling, what they call it, it happens within our cells, and it's located on the surface of the bone. And when we build bone, it's called an osteoblast, build bones. And when we take away that dead old bone, it's called an osteoclast, a blast and a clast. I'll probably start using this a little bit as I share more about bone health and when we're doing the bone building move. Let's see. So yeah, osteoclasts are important too. We do this a lot. It's all balanced when we're younger. We do this a lot to take away that old, eats it up, so it can reshape and build bones and become stronger and more resilient, okay? And better load bearing. Let's see. That's all. I'm reading through some notes of mine so I don't forget anything. Keep going. We got about a minute of walking. Let's see. Let's see. Because the process called remodeling the bones. Yes. I'm sorry. Couldn't remember what I was going to say. I apologize for that. I had a little brain fart there. This whole process of remodeling means that the bones that you had 7 to 10 years ago are not the same as you have or will be in 7 to 10 years. But the good news is that they work in part in remodeling and making sure that you improve your bones through this cell process of an osteoblast and an osteoclast. Let me talk a little bit more about that too, because it does change over our life. Our bones do become more thin and more fragile because of some imbalances that happens with the normal aging process. And I'm going to talk about that next, after we do the next level. Now, if the heel drops, if this next level isn't good for you, then I want you to go back to the heel drops. But all you're going to do is do a small little jump from one foot to the other. Just, you can stand in one place, get off the elliptical, or just jump on one foot and then onto the other foot, and one foot and then onto the other. Just small jumps back and forth. Again, what we're trying to do is get some impact on the ground. I'm going to get a little sciencey as we do this. Newton's law, his second law that I learned in my physics course, is called force equals mass times acceleration. So we're trying to put a force onto our bones because they need to know that they need to get busy. If there is no force on your bones, then our body is so efficient, and you're going to start walking nice and slow. Our body is so efficient that if it doesn't need to exert any energy, it's not going to. So it doesn't think that it needs to build bones. It's not. If it doesn't think it needs to build muscle mass, it's not. And this is what happens with bedridden people or people who've been sick. I know someone who had COVID and had to lay on his tummy for 3 months because of his lungs, and his muscles atrophied because he wasn't using them. The body shuts down any energy, and that includes astronauts. When they go up into space, there's no force on their muscles and their bones, so they lose bone density and muscle mass. It's a big problem for astronauts. So force, you need that force. And how do you get it? You either have mass, and we have our mass is our weight, and weight is the weight against the gravity that's pulling us to the earth, which is 9.8 meters per second squared. I remembered that mass that is pulling us towards the center of the earth, which we don't have in space. So we either have the weight, and that can just be standing up. When you're sitting, you're not getting that much weight. Your butt cheeks and your pelvic bones sort of distribute that mass across there. So your weight is when you're standing up. So that's your mass. Now, if you just want to improve your bone building ability, you put more mass on your body. Sometimes heavier women are less likely to have bone loss. Or yes, that's true. Obesity is a different story when you've got your body's obese and you've got visceral fat. Your body's not efficient at using some of the food that you're taking in, or you're not getting a lot of good food. But a small, slender woman, that's a risk factor for low bone density. I have it. I've got skinny bones. I'm tall. I'm slender. And I have osteopenia already at 60. I had it I was 58. Keep walking slow for another minute. I've invested in a weighted vest, putting more mass on my body, getting my body to be a little bit heavier artificially, so it goes, I better build some bone density. So mass is one way. The other is acceleration, and how fast you're accelerating towards the earth. And that is what we're doing with this impact, that we're doing those heel drops. So we're accelerating faster. This is a little bit premature, but my husband's got he used to work at Hewlett Packard and do shock and vibration testing on Hewlett Packard printers, making sure they didn't break when they got to the customer. So he worked at dampening out that vibration, and he's helping me understand how much vibration we get with each one of these different moves. And the move that we did last was the little jumps or the heel drops. We could see that acceleration towards the earth. Okay, this next one that you're going to do is small jumps. Now you can go back to the heel drops if you want, or you can do a light jog if that's just too much for you. But what you're going to do is just small little jumps, not too much. And you got to be careful, because there's almost too much of anything. It could be too much on your joints if you've got knee issues or low back issues. I'd rather you do maybe just even a stomp on the ground. Stomp, stomp, stomp. Let's do that actually instead of the small jumps. And we'll leave the small jumps for the next one. Just small little stomp, 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 stomp your foot on the ground. Sends that impact through the bones, okay? Keep going. All right, so you understand force equals mass times acceleration. So you want to either add more mass or add some acceleration to get your bones to do an osteoblast. They'll do an osteoclast on their own. Sometimes not, sometimes some autoimmune diseases. Let's walk slow. Could cause the osteoclasts aren't working, so it's not taking away the dead cells. You might get bone spurs or something like that. I don't understand those diseases yet. It's different than osteoporosis, and I haven't dug into them, but it kind of makes sense that if your body's out of balance in building bone and taking away bad bone, there could be some problems. All right, let's talk about what happens when we age. So as we age, we do see a change in our bone building ability between the ages of 10 and 30 is our rapid bone building. Remember, I was little, and I grew super fast. I went from 5'2" to 5'9", 5'2" in 6th grade to 5'9" to the end of 8th grade. So in just 2 years. And I used to get Charlie horses because my muscles and my bones were building so fast. I used to have to put on a heating pad. It hurt. But that's our peak bone building period. And if you do have young kids, younger adults, younger women, younger men, build it up. You can add to the bank. Doing lots of running, impact sports can really help build up, not sitting around watching video games, but building up bone density for the future will really help. I was a runner, and I think that helped a little bit. I do have several risk factors, but I do think it helped a little. All right, then we hit peak at about age 30, and that's when things start to drop. Our estrogen as women starts to drop as our ovaries start shutting down. It's all different for many, everybody's different. And by the time we hit, during 5 years around the menopause for women, we can lose as much as 25 to 30% of our bone mass. Men, it's a little bit different. They do start to lose bone density, but they can, but not as drastically as us based on their hormones. Now we're 15 minutes. Hey, I caught it. We're 15 minutes. We're halfway done. If you want to turn around, do so. Let's see what else I can talk about that. So as our estrogen drops, so does our ability to do an osteoblast. So we have to be careful. We have to make sure that we're doing this. And again, important, parents, grandparents, make sure those youngins are building up that bone density bank. All right. The next thing that I'm going to talk about are the risk factors, the things that we can't change. I talked a little bit about this. The first one risk factor is our gender. 80% of people who have osteoporosis are women. Women have a higher risk than men due to that dropping estrogen level that we have as we age. I talked about that earlier. Race and family history. We only have about 15 seconds, and we're going to do another bone building event. We've done heel drops, we've done stomps, we've done small jumps. I'm going to have you do a light jog if you want, or you can go back to the stomps if jogging is too much for you. Again, a light jog, soft on your knees, stopping if any joint hurts. If your foot hurts, you can jog for 3 or 4 steps and then walk. Just make it your own. Thinking about for 1 minute doing a bone building event. Family history, about 65% of bone health can be attributed to hereditary. Osteoporosis can occur in people of all races and ethnicities, but in general, studies find that Caucasians, especially those of Northern European descent, and Asians are at an increased risk. I don't know all of the factors of this. Calcium consumption, frame size. Also, if your mother and father had osteoporosis, you are yourself at a higher risk. Okay, let's start walking. You can walk at your own pace now, walking slow, taking a deep breath in. Let's check in with our posture. How are you doing with regards to shoulders back and down, abs pulled in? All right, I'm going to get through this kind of quickly if we can. Frame size, I talked about. Men and women who have small frames tend to have higher risk because they might have less bone mass to draw from as they age. If your wrist size is less than 6.5 inches, you have a small frame, and that's me. Age and menopause, we talked about. Those are risk factors that you can't change. There's also a couple of medical conditions that it can affect your bones. I'll talk about that in a little bit more and medications that can happen. And again, we can't do too much about these things, but they're good to be aware of so that you know if you have to do something a little bit extra. I do have a risk assessment that you can do, and it plugs in your numbers into a little calculator, and it'll let you know your risk factors. There are definitely some things that you can change, and before I talk about them, I'm going to take a drink of water. Your nutrition is a big one. Getting enough calcium and vitamin D through the foods that you eat, getting the calcium. Vitamin D, it's hard to get the foods that you There's not many foods that have vitamin D. You get vitamin D from the sun. And a lot of times, a lot of us are, as we age, our bodies aren't as good as taking in the vitamin D. So we sometimes have to supplement. I do take a supplement. I do try to get the calcium that I need through the foods that I eat, but I think I'm taking a new one now because I'm in a special case where I'll talk about it later. But I do have osteopenia and I am taking medication to block my estrogen, which a side effect is more bone loss, even more because of the breast cancer that I had. We'll talk about that a little bit. Exercise, the right kind of exercise that we're doing, that impact, that weight bearing, that building up of your muscles is the right type. Swimming, biking, just gentle walking is not. You've got to be doing the right time. Not that those are bad, but if your goal is to build your bone density, keep your bone health, that's not the best for you. It's not the most effective. Don't smoke. I don't think I need to explain that at all. Alcohol consumption in general, limit that. That can be bone depleting. Caffeine consumption can also deplete your bone density. Try to limit it to 2 cups per day. Increasing your body weight. Boy, oh boy. Never thought forever that I'd say that you can be too thin, but you can be too thin. Making sure your body weight is appropriate, and by appropriate, not too thin. And yes, you need to get on that because there's some risk factors there. You're probably not getting enough nutrients for your bones. 3 more seconds. We're going to do another bone building blast. 1 more. You choose. You can do heel drops. We've only got 2 more. I'm going to let you choose on these next one. You can do a light jog. You can do a little stomp. If you want a big bone blast, you can do a big jump up high and come down nice and softly. Let's see. Some medications, I'm going to talk about those a little bit more, are some things you can change. You can talk to your doctor. If bone loss is a big deal, you may want to try a different medication. Conditions that can cause bone loss: cancer, breast cancer, medications that you take with that, alcoholism, celiac disease. Did you know? I did not know that until I started learning more about osteoporosis fitness, and that I follow a gentleman who got osteoporosis at a very young age because he had celiac disease, and celiac disease is a complete intolerance to gluten, and its side effect can be bone depleting. All right, let's walk slow. Crohn's disease, Cushing's disease, diabetes type 2, having a disordered eating, you're not getting enough of the nutrients, can be bone depleting. Hyperthyroidism, I don't know what this one is, liver disease, leaky gut, rheumatoid arthritis. If you're diagnosed with any of these chronic conditions, ask your doctor to see if there's anything that you can be doing to prevent bone loss. Medications, I'm not going to go through all of these. I'll have a list on my blog post that I'll put in the link below. Heparin, anticoagulants, anticonvulsants, aromatase inhibitors, which is what I'm taking right now. Androgen deprivation therapy, which is something that's close to cancer, any cancer drugs. Prilosec, Zantac, Nexium, those PPIs that you take for acid reflux can affect your bone density. Make sure you're talking to your doctor about that one. Some SSRIs, which Prozac, Zoloft, some antidepressants. Steroids, prednisone, tamoxifen is another cancer drug. Thyroxine, which is a synthroid, which is in high doses for some people that are taking that. Talk to your doctor about all of those. Let's see, what else can I talk about here? Let's talk about some, just real quick, in 1 minute 30, just some early stages, because I called osteoporosis and bone loss a silent disease, but there's some early stages that you might want to be aware of. Not a lot of scientific data around this, but things that I have seen in my studies: brittle nails. Brittle nails and hormonal changes can go hand in hand, even with nutrition deficiencies. So if you are seeing, fluctuations in your symptom, your hot flashes, your period, dry skin, thinning hair, brittle nails, it may be an indication that you need to go get your bone density tested. Receding gums. After all, 99% of the calcium in our body is in our bones and our teeth. So if you're seeing receding gums. It may be that you have an oral health or a calcium deficiency or something like that. That could be weak grip strength. And again, I didn't get much information as to why this happens, but a study I found did see a correlation and something to think about. Later stages of bone loss are fractures, low impact fractures. Something that you do really stupid, like stepping off a curb or just stepping or slightly tripping on a carpet and your foot breaks, that could be a sign. Losing height could, you gotta get, let's do a bone. This is our last one, our last bone building move. You pick heel drops, a small jog, stomps, anything to send a vibration or increase your acceleration towards the center of the earth, causing that osteoblast. You guys are going to be experts on these terms. Sharing them with your family. Oh, I'm doing an osteoblast. They see why you're jumping around. Excuse me, I had to take a drink of water. All right, so loss of height. When you go to the doctor, make sure they measure your height. That's a good sign. If you're shrinking as you're getting older, it could mean that your vertebrae are becoming fractured or closer together. And it's not uncommon for someone to report back pain only to discover that it's actually a fractured vertebrae of their spine from low bone density, okay? So measure your height at every doctor visit. Just 5 more seconds of this last bone building interval, and then let's walk nice and slow at a pretty brisk pace, and then we'll cool down for a minute. I've got just a couple other things to share with you with our next 4 minutes together. A stooped posture, if you're noticing that your posture is getting poorer, it could be due to compression fractures in your spine. It's just another sign of weak bones. And hand in hand, we want to keep our posture good. So, and I'll talk about this in the next walk and learn. I just had too much to share in one walk and learn. I think I'm going to have 3 walk and learns on this one. But making sure you're keeping that posture nice so your vertebrae aren't crunching forward. If you do have severe osteoporosis, they do not recommend that you fold forward. I'll talk about things that are risky in the next walk and learn. So how do you know for sure? You need to get a bone mineral density test. It's also called a DEXA scan. Now I'm hearing some controversy about this, as always, in that it doesn't truly measure bone strength. It measures your bone density, which isn't correlated to bone strength. There are some other tools out there. I'm talking with a company called Ecolite. Unfortunately, they don't have a lot of their test systems in the United States yet, but it uses an ultrasound, and it's getting much better at measuring your actual bone strength versus your bone density. It measures the inner parts of your bone. It's called the trabecular part of your bone, and it measures that, which is the true strength of your bone. Let's see. The only problem with DEXA scans, definitely United States. I know in Spain and Europe, my friend that gets an MRI to measure her bone strength, whatever. But I wanted to get it done, and they said no, not until 65. I went and got it done on my own because I was curious, and then I got it done because I have breast cancer. And typically insurance won't pay for it for men over 70. So you got to make sure that if you have a high risk factor, that you work with your doctor to get it tested. So what's next? So we've got 45 seconds in this walking slow. I want you to make sure that we talked about why bone health is so important. So I hope you have a really good understanding of why it's so important. And then also the next one, I'm going to talk about how you prevent bone loss, because that's a big deal too. Prevent it or just maintain your bone. And then the next one I'll be talking about is becoming more resilient if you do have weaker bones, but just becoming stronger, having a stronger, more resilient body as we age. I don't talk a lot about, let's cool down real quick. There are medications out there that have been shown to improve your bone density. I'm not a doctor, so I'm not going to talk about those at all. I want you to talk to your doctor about them. I am learning more about those, some of the side effects, because everything we take has a side effect. and everything that we do. Let's bring one foot back. We did do some jumps and some things, so make sure you're stretching out your calf. Bringing one foot back and bringing that heel down to the ground. Leaning forward till you feel a good stretch in the back of your leg. Bend that back knee and feel a stretch all the way down to the Achilles tendon. Now switch to the other side. Bring that other foot back. Feel that stretch in the other calf. I'm not giving you a very long stretch. Just quick cool down. Take a deep breath in. Bend that back leg to get a stretch all the way down to the Achilles tendon. You can do my after walk stretch. Just a little bit more. Stretches the upper body a little bit more, lower body a little bit more. Let's stretch our upper back. You might have been having, if you're using your good posture, clasp your hands together, put your palms out in front, round your back, opening up your back, stretch that out. Good. Now bring your arms up and take a great big, nice, deep breath in and out. One deep breath in, bring your arms all the way up and lean side to side. Oh, stretching out through your armpits along the side of your body. And that's the end of the timer. I hope you enjoyed that. Did you learn a little bit more about your bones? I sure hope so, and I hope one of the takeaways is that it's very important to create a strong, resilient body. One, to protect and keep those bones healthy, and then two, if you do have weak bones, to keep your body strong and resilient for any curveball that comes your way, all right? And to do that, what do you need to do? Strength training, and I can help. I'd love for you to try my free basic strength training workout that's designed just for us over 50. It's simple, it's easy to use, and all you have to do is click that link below and send me your email, and I'll send you the free workout right away. If you have any questions, leave me a comment below. Give me a thumbs up if you liked what you learned. I'd love to know what you learned and what a key takeaway you had, and don't forget to subscribe right there. Have a great day, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.